What's up, Kurt?
Not much.
Appreciate you being here, man.
I love being here.
Thanks for taking time off of fishing.
Fishing, yeah.
It's a big honor of you to put fishing aside for me.
I woke up this morning, I went out in the backyard and I smelled fish, seaweed in the ocean. And I was like, it's very fishy.
Did you do the armpit check when you smelled that?
No, that was outside.
Okay.
I could smell the ocean.
You're like right on the canals?
I'm close to it.
Close enough.
Yeah. But it was very fishy this morning.
This is probably going to be a different interview than normal because, to be honest, I don't watch the UFC very much.
Me neither.
I know you told me that a while ago, which is kind of cool. So I'm especially interested in like your story, your journey, your mindset. That really intrigues me a lot.
Okay.
And I was thinking where to start things, and we were talking the other day. I don't remember what brought this up, but you were saying how most of your life you've been broken. That was kind of a paraphrased quote. You said most of my life I've been a broken man, or something along those lines. Do you remember saying that? Or I was wondering what you meant by that and what that feels like for you. Is that we're talking physical, mental? We didn't go into details when you said it.
So to really clarify this, I've been broken since I've been since I can remember, right? Like I have a learning disability.
Okay.
So
which is what?
Dyslexic, really bad.
Really bad.
When I was a kid, I'm gonna be 45 in May 7th, and they didn't really have the resources they have now for the kids, right?
Okay.
So I remember trying to spell the word am, and I had no idea how to spell it, and I was in like first grade in kindergarten.
What is that like? Is it you just literally see the letters backwards, or it just doesn't make sense what order it goes in?
There's no sense to it.
Okay.
Like my B's are my D's. I could start reading and then go all the way down to the end of like the other paragraph, and they're like, where are you?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Like still to this day, like where are you? I don't know if it's WHERE or WERE.
Okay.
Like I have no idea. There's, thens.
Okay.
Like if it wasn't for the iPhone and how you text and it comes up, I would have it would be horrendous on text messages.
Wow.
For me still. So like when I told people, like that's probably like a weird moment, I kind of said it and just didn't realize I said it, but I've been battling a learning disability and being in uncomfortable situations my whole life. And the wrestling is what got me out of it. Like my dad was a Marine. So every summer we shaved my head, and then at the end of, before school started, he shaved my head. That's how you go to school.
Okay.
And when you had no friends and everybody called you, a retard because you couldn't read or write, and having a cousin who has Down syndrome, like I knew what that meant. You know what I mean? Like as a young kid, and my cousin, I didn't think there was nothing wrong with him. I thought he was awesome. Yeah. And to be called that, I'm like, man, am I being made fun of? Like, are they really like, I don't have Down syndrome. Why are they? Cause we did do like a hot lunch, cold lunch, and milk order. And I always wanted to do it. So you kids raise your hand, you count them. And that's how they figured it out. I put like 108 cold lunches. I put like 17 hot lunches and like 35 milks. Well, there was only like, 15 kids in the class, 20 kids. How do you have that many? Right. That's they thought I was like fooling around and always getting in trouble, but I had no idea. So I always felt like my brain was broken from learning. What am I going to do? And my dad's like, if you wrestle, everyone will love you. Like that's how he got me out of it. So my brother was in the rec wrestling and I was too little to do it. I wasn't we're like Irish twins. So he was, I'm fully Italian, by the way, but yeah. So he goes and, as he wrestled his first year, I was that little kid on the side of the mat doing like the duck walks and shadow wrestling. And then whenever they needed a partner, like, hey, you want to come on in and be his partner? I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. So then when the year came where I could wrestle and all the kids that made fun of me could wrestle, and my mom and dad held me back. They were in second grade and they're, there's the retard. Let's go beat up on him. Like I
literally
hear them
say stuff like
yes,
that. Literally.
I'll never forget it because I remember lifting and I'd be saying that word when I was a kid. Right. Like they would call me a retard. You want to say something? And I remember my dad saying, let that fuel you to be great. I mean, as a little kid, I have no memory. My memories is I'm losing it from the fighting, getting punched in the head so much, but I can never forget the torment that I took when I was in elementary school. And when I was able to wrestle with them, they had no idea what they were doing.
Mm.
And I made them feel the way they made me feel. And I pounded them for that. Like I was, like my dad, like I said, my dad was like, if someone hit you, punch them in their face.
Right.
Like that's just how I was brought up. He's like, girl, boy, I don't care. Say touch you, don't like it, hit him. Because every day I'd come home, I'm like, why am I being called this? I had a friend's mom call and said, we don't want our son to catch that disease. Could you imagine that? Someone calls the boys or your daughter, or there's like, hey, we don't want our son or daughter to hang out with yours because we don't want them to catch that. And catch what?
I would say that I don't believe it because of how the world is now. But when we were kids, because we're similar age groups, and like when we were kids, people were just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I am not religious in the slightest, but when I was brought up, I was like Reformed Jewish. So it's kind of like Jewish light. I kind of explain to people. And we had kids move in across the street that came from the Midwest. These 3 little boys are our age group. They were good friends of ours. There was no animosity. They'd never met anyone that was Jewish. And I remember them coming over one time after we got to know each other. They were like, hey, can I touch your head? And I'm like, what? They're like, well, I've never felt like the horns that like Jewish people have on top of their head.
Shut up.
And I was like, I didn't know whether to laugh or like punch them in the face. But it's like,
funny,
there was a lot of ignorance back then. So when you say that, I'm like, yeah, I actually can believe it.
It's crazy. It was just so different. I couldn't imagine. It was just so different. I'm so glad that I went through all those hard things because all my kids have straight A's.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest fear would be them having my brain, even though it's a very unique brain when it comes to competing and wrestling and how I look at fighting and wrestling and how my training ethic is and how like no one could keep up with the pace that I wanted. And that's usually what I say. Like I keep a pace that's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if me and you were starting to do something, like if we started playing chess and every Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday we played chess and we went to class and someone was teaching us moves, but you didn't go on Sunday. I don't care if I was sick, I'm going on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I could find a private lesson once a week too, I'm going to do that too, just to make sure I'm outpacing you to be better. Like that's how I looked at competing. I'm going to set a pace and whoever wants to keep it, they can. But 9 times out of 10, they never could keep it. They couldn't keep it in wrestling. Some of my best friends, and they couldn't keep it when I started doing jiu-jitsu either. And I just slowly moved away and made better friends that were at the higher of the game. But that's kind of what I meant. Like I've always been broken. So now I'm broken with my body. Like now my body's basically shutting down, including my, the brain a little bit.
So you had kind of implied that some of the negative bullying experiences you had sort of use that as fuel.
Yeah.
Kind of use that as coal on the fire.
Yeah.
Is that necessary? Like, I know your son's like a fantastic wrestler. Does he need to have inner turmoil and pain, or are there ways around that so he can use different things for fuel? Like,
yeah, so I'm not doing any of that with him, right? Like I just tell him like, if you want, so my problem, and it's a good problem to have, right? Kurt's the best kid athlete in as a 13-year-old I've ever seen. He was that way when he was when he was 5, Jimmy's age. He was doing one-handed cartwheels. He was doing shots and duck walks. I even think Jordan Burroughs retweeted him and said, "Keep going, kid."
mm-hmm.
I'm actually 100% sure he.
I'll be honest, I don't know who that is.
He's the greatest U.S. American wrestler of all time.
Okay,
7 world titles.
Sounds stupid, but that's all good.
No. Listen, I mean, people ask me when I was fighting in the UFC, and they asked me if I knew who a certain fighter was, and he was fighting for the belt. Lyoto Machida. And I'm like, who's that?
Okay.
And Kenny Florian started laughing. He's like, and the guys that were doing the interview in my hotel room before I fought Rob Emerson started laughing. They didn't believe me. And he's like, he's serious. He has no idea who that is.
Isn't that this is a total tangent, but isn't that funny? It's the same with any kind of thing, like with art, right? There's people that are super into like collecting and like knowing art history. And then there's people that make the art, and often those are completely different circles. And there's
Yeah.
people that are like UFC junkies or sports junkies and know everything about everything, but maybe they can't play. And
Yeah,
it's that's a weird thing. But go back to your story. Go ahead.
So with like Kurt, I just said, how I was brought up with my dad was crazy. Like he's like, you're gonna be like he didn't understand me losing in practice. He didn't understand me losing in matches. And I was like, people are better, you know what I mean? He's like, but if you don't want them to beat you, they can't. So with Kurt, my thing with Kurt is, why do this if we're not gonna be the best? Like I don't care about winning a state title. I want to win an Olympic gold medal. Right? Like I was a 2-time New Jersey State Finalist in high school. Went there twice, lost twice by 1 point. I won the New Jersey States as an 8th grader. I won the state championships in freestyle and Greco-Roman a couple times. And I just said I still didn't give myself the best I could have given myself. And I know I could have pushed harder. That's why I fought in the UFC. I was chasing that state championship. And for you, you have a bloodline that nobody else in your school have. Your dad, his name's all over the school. I have a retired singlet. I'm a retired Hall of Fame wrestler in New Jersey. I'm a retired Hall of Fame in Point Pleasant. I go, you can choose to be better than me, and like a typical wrestling dad, when you go and you lose, then you beat your kid up. Like, you suck. You wrestled like shit. Like, why are you doing that? Like, all this time. That was every dad, including myself, because I see Kurt would wrestle you and you stink, but then you beat him. And I'm like, how the hell does that happen? So instead of me getting on him like all dads do, like wrestling dads, right? Which I never agreed with then. I don't agree with now. I just tell Kurt I love him. And ever since I started telling him, I think I broke the code. Like, I love you, man. Good luck. He loses, I'm like, I love you. I don't care that you lost, because this means nothing. We're just getting better.
Right.
And ever since I said that to him, I think he's lost 3 times in like 6 months. Like, and they're really good kids. And I just don't care enough, because I want a good relationship. And how Kurt's motivation is just, if you don't want to be the best, go play your football, play baseball. You hit home runs playing baseball at that young age. Football, you can score thousands of touchdowns like you did the first season you did it. He could play soccer. He'll start in soccer. And it's like a curse having a kid that good at any sport he plays, because he really can play any sport.
Right.
So I'm just like, if you focus on one and you dream really big and you want to be an Olympic gold medalist and you keep that dream, every other thing can stop, and you put everything into one thing and watch what's happened. In that year, he has done things that I have never been able to do as a 7th grader. And he's so stinking good that I have other high schools reaching out to me for him. I mean, he's so good. It's hard kind of managing his career, because it really is a career. Like, I'm going to Maryland this week. Next week I'm going to or I'm giving him a week off, and then we have the New Jersey Freestyle States. Then after that, I go to Virginia for the Virginia Beach Duels, which is one of the hardest duels in the country. Kids from California, Oklahoma, Iowa, Nebraska, Alabama, all sorts of Pennsylvania teams. I think there's like 104 mats. It's out of control. So it's very difficult, but it's totally different, because Kurt has everything. He has 2 parents that love him and a bonus mom that loves him, because we're divorced. He has tons of friends. He's very popular, but he doesn't get to do the things that normal kids do. Like Kurt came home yesterday and ran 40 minutes. After he was done running 40 minutes, he had supper, and then he went to practice for 2 hours. On the weekends, on Saturdays, if we don't have a tournament, on Sundays, we wrestle for 3 hours. Just one practice, 3 hours. And then he runs for 45 minutes before he goes to bed. He does 150 push-ups, 150 sit-ups, and 50 handstand push-ups. Like, that's Kurt working on himself. And the kid's doing it pretty much without me even telling him to do it. So you know, my pain drove me to work out because I didn't want to be made fun of or treated like that. I think Kurt's just chasing to be chasing to be the best, and then having me as his dad, kind of pushing him in that direction is yeah, I think it's working pretty well. Like we were going to do the nationals, a national qualifier after this weekend, the next weekend, and I said no. He's like, why? And I'm like, dude, you're 13. Like you need to have like 2 days where you can eat whatever you want. You know what I mean? Without worrying about like, you're just a kid.
Yeah.
I'm trying to manage you being a kid, but also manage like traveling to Vegas for wrestling tournaments, going to North Carolina, going to Oklahoma, going to Wisconsin. Like, you know, it's a lot. Like for me, I can't do anything. I'm all over this kid, but he's a great kid. He's super respectful. He wouldn't hurt a fly. It's just for me, my dad wanted to prove every kid wrong, that I wasn't what they were calling me, dummy, stupid, idiot. So my dad pushed real hard for me to be good, and it kind of ruined our relationship a little bit. Now we're like best friends. Me and Kurt, I try my hardest to never do like what other parents do. And like, I was never that bad, but I remember we were leaving a tournament in Wildwood Duels. And as we were leaving, I mean, Jay, this is crazy. This dad has, I mean, this kid had to be 10. And he's like, you fucking suck. All this money I'm wasting on you. What are you fucking shit? This is ridiculous. What do you want? 4 matches out of 10? Like, I mean, and I looked at Kurt, I go, want me to do that to you? He's like, nah, I'm good. Like, and now I see that, and it's just so bad. I mean, you had, for the youth states, I had a mother doing it to a daughter. This girl had to be, if she was 7, that was big. Maybe 7. I actually stopped her, touched her on her shoulder, and Mom, I go, cut it out. Like, that's your daughter. I mean, what are you doing? But people want to live through their kids, and I think I was doing that in the beginning. I wanted him to like beat all my records, so I had this big thing with him, and I said, you know, I laced my shoes up over 1,000 times. I stepped on over 1,000 mats. I took over 1,000 shots. Like, I already did all that. Lost, maybe a couple times in my life, and won over 1,000 times. Like, I did it all. Now it's your turn to do all that, and your journey is going to be your journey. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. If you become a multiple-time New Jersey high school state champion, great. I won the states as a middle school kid. If you win it once, twice, or don't win it all, you're writing your own book. So if you passed away today, I'm going to open up your book and I'm going to read it for everyone to hear. When I die, someone's going to do the same thing for me, but I'm not going to write your book. You want to write your book, you want to hang out with your friends, but are your friends going to help you cut weight? Are they going to help you do double legs? We did the math once, and you're a smart guy, so I'll let you think about this math number. From I would say 8th grade, just to be safe. I think it was 7th. I did 100 shots, like a double leg shot. I did 100 every single day until my freshman year of college, till the first semester. Just 100 on my own, like not with a partner. I did that every day. Like, that was my job when I was a kid. You want to have supper? 100 shots. Like, that was my life. And I don't know anything else. So like, when I have someone like my son doing it, it's pretty neat. And I also feel really bad because I lived that life. And now that I'm divorced and I have another little guy who's 5, my wife was my high school girlfriend. So she's like, she wants Jimmy to be where Kurt is. And he'll technically probably be better than Kurt because he has an older brother. And now we're righting all the wrongs that I did with Kurt, making it better with Jimmy. But like, I'm almost like, hey, Tara, I tap out. let's not do this. Like, let's, let him be a soccer star. I don't know what's happening. I could sit in the crowd and just be proud and just not care. Because when you're wrestling, like jujitsu, like if you went to a tournament, like you're the boys' coach. You know what I mean? Unless one of the coaches come. For wrestling, I'm the only coach. My dad, who knew nothing, was my coach. So you have all these jiu-jitsu parents trying like, oh, you're not here. We're going to go to a gym where they have more coaches. I'm like, man, I have moms coaching against me when my son's wrestling. Like, that woman don't know what she's talking about, right? And she's coaching against someone who's in the Hall of Fame of wrestling. Like, but they didn't care. They don't go and complain to their coaches, Can
I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Did you see that movie, King Richard, the Serena and Venus?
I want to see it so bad.
We just saw it, and the reason I'm bringing it up, because it was an amazing story. You would freaking love it. But there were five daughters, and in the movie, at least, it was portrayed as Venus and Serena obviously got the bulk of the attention, and then Venus kind of took off first, and then all the attention was focused on her.
Sure.
What is the dynamic like? Are you worried? Because you have other kids. You have beautiful kids besides little Kurt, right?
Yeah.
Kurt Jr. I don't know what you refer to him as. Kurt.
Dipshit.
There you go. How does that dynamic work? Like, what if like Millie or one of the other kids has a completely different interest? What if so much attention goes to Kurt that the others grow up feeling like, oh, I wish my dad gave me attention like that? Like, are those ever concerns of yours as a dad?
It's one of my fears, to be honest with you. Like, for Priscilla, my oldest daughter, she's plays lacrosse. I love that because I don't know anything about it, and I'm starting to know. And I talked to some of the coaches for her, and she's battling. She's a starter, then she's like subbing in and out. And Priscilla. Oh man, she is me. She is the most stubborn, bullheaded kid you'll ever meet. Like, you tell her she can't do something, she is such a spitting image of me. If Kurt had a 10th of what Priscilla had, that kid wouldn't get scored on ever. She is a complete psychopath. I love her for it too. She is playing lacrosse when it's snowing in her backyard, raining in her backyard. Every day after school, she goes, when they have lacrosse, she does 30 minutes before it starts, an hour after it's over, and then comes home and throws the lacrosse ball at the net. That's what she does every day. Every day. She can't. And I'm like, hey, listen, like, it's late. It's raining. Get inside. And I'm on the phone driving home, and I'm like, will you stop for a minute and just talk to me? I'm driving home from the gym. I want to talk to you. And then Millie, then you have Millie, who's like my little, and I can't make it to all of Priscilla's thing because all her stuff is like directly after school, and sometimes I got to be at the gym, and it's a tough balance, but like her mother's there, so like one of us is there, and I don't do any of the driving with Kurt, like during the week. I don't do any of it, and his mother does a lot of it, or the guys that all the kids go. Millie does gymnastics. That she's 6, but they're both signed up for soccer, which is in the summertime, so it's on Saturday, so I can make it to these things. But Kurt gets the most of the attention because every Saturday, if I'm not in a tournament, I'm driving down to Paulsboro to wrestle with this elite group, and then on a Friday night, if the Pennsylvania practice is up, that's what I do on Saturday night. I'm just starting to bring Jimmy with me. So I have my 5-year-old almost in the same practices as Kurt. But like, I support the kids doing all that stuff, but Kurt's in it. Like, he's so in it. And it's hard to not give him that attention. But like Virginia Beach, we all travel together. So everyone comes, we make it like a fun time, like a family trip, family vacation. So it's just really, it's so difficult because he's elite at a young age, and where you have Priscilla playing in the school, but Priscilla also plays like in the like the Mad Dog, shout out the Mad Dog, lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
So she's there, and I go to her games. So if I don't have a thing with Kurt, like I'm always going, or her mother's always there. So I try to show my love and support as much as I can.
Yeah.
There is tournaments I couldn't make it to Kurt either, but like the big ones, I have to be there. And his wrestling for middle school is right after school, so it's at 3:30, 2:45. So like I can make it, and then I'm running to the school. Like I might miss the kids or the opening of the class, but then I'm there at the end. Where Priscilla's is like at 6 p.m. It's tough.
It's like such a interesting dynamic, like hearing you talk about your son, because I think about a movie like I just talked about, then I also think about like other, people that have excelled, like Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang, unbelievable guitarist, will never match his father, accolade-wise. There's so many examples of that. It's almost like it's beautiful, and it's also scary, because like what if like your son could excel past you, he could fall short and then feel insecure for the rest of his life. Like there's so many variables, you know what I mean? I'm going to turn around for one sec. Okay, we're on camera, just making sure. Man, yeah. What I think about is like for myself, I think about that often. Like I think for me, art has always been the one thing that I kind of excelled at. The one thing that made me stand out was art, for better or worse. Like would I have rather spun the wheel and done something else? Maybe, but art was the thing that was my thing. But then I also have like a zillion other interests. And I think, man, if I only focused on art with the same laser focus that you're talking about, I can only imagine how much better I'd be. And I don't know if it's curiosity, laziness, or just something else, but I love spreading my time across things to sort of become jack of all trades, master of none.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I love that. And how does that work for you? Like, do you have a side of you that's like wishes maybe you spoke another language or played an instrument or did other things, or even with your own children? How do you balance that between being laser focused at one thing, being a world champion, versus having a very not well balanced, but having a more diverse attention span across many things? How does that play out for someone with your mindset?
So I'm just, it's like a gift and a curse, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a gift and a curse.
Absolutely.
Like I didn't do, you know why I never did the no-gi world championships?
I do not.
It's the only gold medal I don't have. And I don't want it. Because once I win it, there's nothing left for me to do. I really, I wanted to compete in Abu Dhabi. I did it.
There's nothing left for you to do. You didn't specify in jiu-jitsu or grappling.
Sorry, in jiu-jitsu.
But I'm wondering if that's purposeful. Like there's just so much of your self-worth is in that world.
Yeah, like I won every gold medal you could do, like Arnold Classic, Pan Am gold medals, Arnold Classics I won. So all these super fights I've won. I beat so many world champions in jiu-jitsu. It's out of control. And everyone always like, why don't you ever do that? I'm like, it's the only medal I don't want. Because then once I do it, then it's like there's nothing left for me to accomplish.
We got to go on a tangent. I'm going to play therapist.
Okay.
Just because I find this super interesting about you. Whenever I am around you and I'm hearing you chat, you have these super extreme sides, right? And maybe I'm just misinterpreting. You have the one side where I could see your identity is very tied up in your accolades, which understandably you earned all of it. So I'm bowing down to you. Amazing. But the other side, you have a very humble, nurturing, family-oriented, mellow side, and it feels like those are almost like polar opposites, but somehow they're not. And I find that I know a few highly accomplished grapplers, for instance, that we're mutually friends with, and others, and they're like some of the most humble people in the world.
Yeah.
But then you also have this super ego side where you're like, oh, it's the only one I don't want to win, because I know I could win it. It's like super fucking cocky. The other side, you're like, Well,
like I used to.
How do you balance that out?
Like I told my friend Emily, everyone always told me I'd never do it. Like that's where it came from. Like my mom, I was writing a book called Yes, I Can. Because my whole life, everybody told me you can't do that. I hate that word. I hate the word can't.
Because you can't spell it?
No, I can spell it. I wish I didn't know how to spell it, but like my kids, they can call me anything, but if they say and I can't do it,
Right.
like I'll punish them
Yeah.
in my house. And they stare at that wall for like 10, 15 minutes, standing like they're in the army, hands to their side. I hate that 4-letter word. My whole life, I was like, you can't do this. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You're never going to be this good. So if I beat like all these world champions, in my brain, I'm like, how do you beat me in a world championship? Like, I'm not going to lose on the biggest stage. Like, I've lost plenty of times. And I beat plenty of world champions. I think I've only lost like 6 times in grappling. If you think you could, like, ask the greatest, like, ask Emily if she thinks she's going to lose a match. Ask,
You're talking about Emily Kwok, just so whoever's listening. Yeah.
In my eyes, I think she's one of the best female grapplers in the world.
Objectively true. Yeah.
Prove me wrong. You know what I mean? Like, she is a monster.
Yeah. And Dom, too, obviously.
Yeah.
Dominico, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're all great.
Yeah.
I mean, Emily was the first. You know what I mean? And when you're the GOAT, you're the GOAT, right? So if you have a mindset that you get, like, I'm afraid I'm going to get beat. That's why I work so hard. And when I go to that mat, like, and that's what I tell my son, you have to be afraid every single day you wake up because there's someone could have woke up 5 minutes before you.
If you had to put a percentage on it, how much of your fuel is running from something versus running towards something?
I run towards everything.
But you're also afraid, which is running from.
No, I'm running towards it. I'm running to prove to everyone that told me I could never do it.
So that's kind of running away from.
Is that?
That's running away from something, right? Like, and I think about the same things. Like, sometimes I'll have like off days or off weeks, and I feel like shitty about my career or whatever it might be, and I think about the people that criticize me, and I have their, like, the things they've said in my head as fuel. You can't make it. You're this. You're that. Blah blah blah. Whatever it might be, and those, I'm like, oh yeah, F you, watch me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I also think the opposite, which is like, I want to create, I want to build something, I want to do something, and that's more majestic. I'm like running towards something, like running uphill.
I guess I was always, running away. I just used the motivation of negative people that always told me I couldn't do something to turn to a positive to be like, yes, I can.
Yeah.
So I had 2 teachers in elementary school that were really mean to me, really bad, told me I'd never make it in life. Like, I'd be in jail. I think I was in 3rd grade when that happened. And I actually, they lived in town. I knew where they lived because you're a kid in a small town. Yeah. So when I made it in the UFC and got in a video game, I bought 2 video games and put it in their mailbox and said, I just want to say thank you for not believing in me. This helped me. Like something in that lines. But I did that to 2 teachers. They probably don't have a clue who they were talking about and leave my name. But I just want them to know, like, even as an adult, like what you said to me when I was a kid still pissed me off enough to do what I did. And I just feel like I have to relive all of it again with Kurt. I'm not excited. Like, when I lost the state finals twice, coming off and giving your dad a hug was tough. Like, I have to relive him cutting weight. I have to relive him losing matches, winning matches, his ups, his downs. And I don't get to let the stress out. So the stress when he did something bad was on him. And now I don't have any stress. It's his thing to do as good as he can or as bad as he can. And even if he loses and never makes it to the state finals ever, that's a great accomplishment. It's been a great ride. And it's your dream. It's your destiny. I'm just going to help you get there with money.
Yeah. Well, more than just money.
But you can't get to any of these crazy places.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I literally save money to travel. It was the same thing I did with Francis. When Francis came to me, he was 12 years old. And Francis's big thing, still to this day, he's like, keep on, Kurt. Don't stop. Because it's a confident thing, right? When you're wrestling, if you're a state champ and I'm not, I lost. Like, you're going to beat me. Like, I'm already lost before we even get, like, I already lost in practice. I already lost on the bus. Now I'm in your gym. I lost. Now I weighed in. I lost. When I get on the mat, it's over. And that was Francis a little bit in, like, the big state tournaments. and he had an opportunity where he could have won. I think he could have placed in the top 5, but he had a state champ that was there, and he was really nervous. And I was like, dude, it doesn't matter. It's a state tournament. Like, nothing matters. Like, there is no more records. There's no state champions. Everyone has the opportunity to be one. And I reminded him, like, I was seeded 8th, and I had my first match was the #1 kid in the state. Like, I wasn't supposed to win that match, but I was so mad that the state didn't believe in me. And I took it out on him, and I pinned him in the second period. I was beating him, and then I pinned him. And then I pinned the next kid, and I was in the state final. So you can do it. He ends up losing to that kid, and the kid he beat in the region finals beat that kid. And that kid ended up placing, like, took 4th in the state. And Francis says, don't lay off of him. Keep talking to him. Keep trying to motivate him. Let him understand that it doesn't matter. Because if you can get into his head now, like I got into like Francis' head when he fought, I said, this guy's 1-0. Right? Like, that's the guy. Like, he's 1-0. Are you going to be scared of him? Because if you're scared of him, you don't get pinned. You get knocked out.
Right.
That hurts. Right?
Yeah. You know what?
You can't think that way. So Francis didn't change until he started fighting. And he's like, if you can get Kurt to change now, before he gets to high school, none of these kids have a chance. So that's kind of what I'm trying to psychologically just kind of get into Kurt's head. And I think he's been doing really good since I kind of been leaving him alone.
Does being as experienced of a fighter as you are, does that make you, and not just obviously grappling, but being in the UFC, getting your face pounded and pounding other people's faces, does that type of experience make you more apprehensive to get in an actual real life street type fight? Does that make you, because you realize the consequences of it, or do you feel more like, yeah, if you want to push me hard enough, that'd be fun. That would be a fun thing to do. Like, is it a fun, creative thing where you're like, fuck, let's see what happens and prove yourself, or like, is it more like, I don't want to see where this ends up because I could really, someone can
like if I was walking on the street and somebody wanted to like test themselves.
Yeah, I've talked to like friends who are high level grapplers or jiu-jitsu people that we're friends with, and often I'll get a response like, if I had the opportunity, I'd run away because they could have a gun, they could have a knife, you never know how it could end up, you can smash your head on the concrete. I'm wondering, is it more like, with you, is it like that, where like, if I can avoid it, I will because I know the consequences, or is it more like, this is my medium, let's see what I can do?
Well, I would, even back in the, like, I hate fighting. Is that odd?
Yeah.
Hate it. It was the worst job ever.
Okay.
Like, I never liked fighting. I liked competing.
Okay.
So to punch someone in the face and kick them and have it returned to me, I just didn't like it.
You don't?
No.
Still?
I don't watch fights. I've never watched fights.
Watching, yeah, but what about being in it?
So being in it was,
I guess, go to the question. Is it, if you're in a situation in a bar,
I don't want to fight.
You don't want to. So if you have an opportunity of getting out of it,
100%.
It's not like you're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to do it, but if you're going to push me, sure, I'll just,
No, I tell people right off the bat, I'm sorry. Like, I've tried buying people drinks if I had to. I try, like, even like road rage, when people like will cut, like, I had a guy cut me off once, and to where like I pulled over because I was going to like Rite Aid, and he followed me in Rite Aid and got out of his car. And I was like, listen, if I get out of this car, you're dead.
Well, he could have a gun.
But at that point, if I get out of the car, like, I'm ready to die.
Right.
That's the part. That's why I don't want to fight. Because if me and you fight in the street, there's no coming back from that. Like, in my way of going, it's, if I'm going to fight you, and if I'm fighting some guy I don't know, and there's no contract being signed, I'm going to protect me for my life.
Sure.
So if you come at me for real, you're going to suffer very bad consequences for that. And if you pulled a knife or a gun, I'm going to finish you.
Potentially. He could shoot you.
Either way, one of us is going to go.
Either way, it's to the death.
For me, if you pulled that on me, one of us is going to die. I hope none of us would, and we could maybe settle the problem, because like I said, I've settled so many problems that happen, but I'm pretty much. I know I'm a big personality that you see, but when I'm like, I have had people come up to me and go, "You Kurt Pellegrino?" I was like, "No." It's just easier just to say no and just keep walking. And I'm like, "Isn't that guy like really shredded and in great shape?" Like, I'm fat. Like,
See, there you go. That you're exemplifying what I was talking about. You have these two extreme sides, and I'm wondering if that's the same personality or not.
no, there's a competition Kurt, and then there's just a
Like, is there in your head? Do you talk you and let's say Tara when you're talking? Do you talk about Kurt Pellegrino as like a third person?
never.
You don't, not in an ego way, but more like this guy, the UFC guy, versus like.
I don't ever talk about that guy.
Okay. Well, you do. You kind of
Never.
You're kind of braggadocious about things you've accomplished, and
If people ask questions, it was my journey, right? So I'm
Sure.
proud of my journey for sure.
right.
But like, I don't like people like, so I get that question a lot. Like when people, some person, I was in the Moose and just drinking, having a good time, and someone, which was great, came up to me and was like, not me, but the guy I was talking to, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get him to sign my UFC belt that he bought," and to where like I think that's crazy, someone buy a UFC belt, but I'm not gonna downplay what he did. Like he likes it.
Sure.
I'm like, yeah, of course I will, because he knew who I was. Then this other guy joined the conversation. He goes, "Oh, I wrestled with someone that fought in the UFC."
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, "No, you didn't." And he, in my head, but I didn't say that to him because I don't want to be mean. And he's like, yeah, I wrestled with him in high school, and he's a big time UFC fighter. Was. His name's Kurt Pellegrino. And I just kept my mouth shut. And the guy was like, he's like, you wrestled with Kurt Pellegrino? Because he knew that I was there. He goes, yeah. I go, hey, how you doing? He goes, how are you? What's your name? I go, Kurt Pellegrino.
Yeah.
And I never wrestled with that guy.
Right.
Like I don't, unless my brain can't remember it, but I really don't remember it just from whatever the damages that I've been taking.
Right.
That just is kind of gone. But like my friend next to me was like, "Oh, I bet your head's so big right now." And I just looked at them. I was like, I wish that never even came up.
You said you don't like fighting. Does that apply to grappling as well? Because I
No.
know grappling is all about strategy. It's definitely something. When I hear your discipline and your ability to kind of be laser focused, I envy that a lot. Because I feel like I have a lot of pure interest in my life that I just, like I said, I'm more of like I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I just enjoy everything.
Yeah.
I actually first got into jiu-jitsu like after the first UFC when like Hoist Gracie came about. There was like no schools around at the time. My brother and I got videos from the back of like Black Belt magazine.
Sweet.
And then we ended up taking some classes with Craig Kukoc in New York City.
Wow.
And this is like way back when there was no schools anywhere. And I obviously I wish I stuck with it because that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But I've always I've always been fascinated by the strategy of it, like the chess-like nature of it.
Yeah.
And being a smaller framed person like I am, it was the first time in my life where I felt some sort of self-empowerment of like, okay. And back then, no one knew jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
No one.
True.
So like even teaching myself and taking a few classes and being a quasi mid-level white belt, I was able to like tap out most of my 6 foot whatever friends, which was
100%,
amazingly awesome at the time. And I feel like that is why I have my children in your classes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like to feel that empowerment, but also I feel like it's the strategy of jiu-jitsu, the mindset of jiu-jitsu. I think that carries over to a lot of areas of life.
Yeah. If I could have made my money that I made fighting in the UFC and just grappling, I would have just grappled.
But you couldn't?
No. Oh my God, no way. Not even close. I mean, I was maybe making like $1,000 for like a super fight.
Okay.
If that, right? If that. But like I don't love fighting. I love the competition. Like that's what got me up in the morning. The competition of someone trying to be better than me.
So it's not about the problem solving. It's not about or it is.
Yeah, I think it's like all the same thing. Like
okay.
But I would rather have made my money in grappling, like Gordon Ryan and them are doing, than what I did, because I didn't really care about being famous. I just wanted to compete at the highest level. And I wasn't able to do it with college wrestling because I failed every subject the first semester, which I thought was pretty impressive. So I went to that route because I didn't know what other route to do. And wrestling in the Olympics I didn't have the money. I didn't have the money to go out to Colorado and do all that stuff. I didn't have the money. So I chose this route. I never knew it was going to take me to where it went. I went to a UFC fight when Chuck Liddell fought Kevin Randleman. And when I left the show in Atlantic City, they were like, that was awesome. And I said, I'm going to be there. And no one was like, no, you're not. I mean, it's the UFC. I'm like, I'm going to be there. And when the next UFC came around, like 8 months later, everybody was going, like, are you going? I'm like, no. They're like, why aren't you going? And I'm like, well, the next UFC I see will be the one that I'm fighting in. And I never went to another one again until I fought in it. Like, that was like, I just knew how to push myself. You know what I mean? It wasn't that I hated fighting. Like, do you like punching other people in the face?
Do you?
Do I? No. Do you?
No. I haven't had enough experience doing it, but the times I've done it, it went by too fast to even know what was happening.
Yeah, right. That was my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was scary because you're training to beat me up.
Yeah.
Break my arm, take me down, elbow me in the face. Like, when people say, like, I love fighting, like, man, you haven't fought at the highest level.
Right.
And even the highest level guys, like, I get you say you love fighting, but I can't believe people love to hurt another person or to get hurt.
There's no pleasure in it. Like, when you're in the moment, you're like bashing someone's face in. Like,
you're in it, right?
Is it more survival? Like, yes, I'm gonna beat you so you don't beat me. Like,
I think it's more attacking. Like, I was on full-fledged attack mode.
Yeah.
Like, when I don't know if anyone ever saw that fight when I fought Fabricio Camoes, when he had my back and I dove down and almost broke his neck. I remember a reporter asked me, well, you could have killed him. And I was like, well, that's his fault. Like, I was being choked to death. How do I get out of it? I dove to the ground. I didn't mean to spike him on his head. I didn't know I had to get out of this somehow. And I really almost broke his neck. It was really bad. Even to this day, I don't regret doing it. It was, what else am I supposed to do? Tap and have you win the fight? I was trying to get out.
Sure.
It's a hard thing to think about. Like, do you like when that question people ask me all the time, do you like fighting? No, like, I wouldn't fight in a bar if I knew I could fight. I wouldn't, if I could not get caught and beat somebody up on the beach and know, and look into a crystal ball and know that I wouldn't get caught, I still wouldn't do it.
Okay. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's a common attitude amongst other fighters?
I think a lot of fighters, if you're a real fighter, like a down-to-earth fighter, like the highest level, the last thing you want to do is beat up some person who has no idea what's happening. That's what I tell people. Like, I'm 45. I have a fully replaced shoulder. I have a fully replaced knee. I need a fully replaced hip. But at 45 years old, like, and you don't train jiu-jitsu or boxing, like, what could you do against me if I wanted your wallet? You know what I mean? Like, then you could say, well, you're not the Kurt you used to be. You're right. But to you, I am. You're just as old as I am. So you haven't done nothing, and I still train jiu-jitsu. So give me your money. You know? But, like, I'm not I'm pretty much a super happy, lazy, relaxed guy. I like fishing. I like hanging out with the kids, teaching them how to bike ride. Like, I just like being a dad.
How do you compare the journey / struggle / discipline of your fighting experience versus being an entrepreneur?
I think it just went hand to hand. My journey was with me in the gym. I never looked at the gym as if it was a business and I was making money. I looked at the gym as training partners going to come to me and train with me. That's how I looked at it.
Still?
No, now I'm looking at it like I need to promote. I want to have better students. If students aren't winning in the room, I feel like I'm not a good enough coach. I'm also looking for someone that really wants it, right? Like Francis really wanted it, right? And I have no ego, so I sent him to American Top Team because he outdid what he was supposed to do here.
It's Ricardo.
American Top Team?
Yeah.
Down
Laborio?
in Laborio, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's there as much anymore,
Okay.
but he was
I actually know him for about 10 years.
Oh, yeah?
Because my brother...
Isn't he in Orlando?
Yes. My
Yeah.
brother used to own a dojo, and he used to be an American Top Team facility. So I met like Ricardo in Las Vegas, like one of the shows.
Yeah.
Super long time ago. A very down-to-earth guy. One of my college roommates is sending his son to his school in Orlando now.
Awesome.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, that's where my kids would go.
Yeah.
He's great. Like, I love that man. He's a great dude.
Super nice.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. I met so many great people. It's just, it's just a world, I guess, right?
Can you tell me what it was like having so much of your, and these are all assumptions I'm about to say,
Sure.
having so much of your identity and who you are as a person tied to your UFC career, and then, like you said, having all these injuries and having that sort of pulled from you in a way, like you're not, whether you're injured or not, you get to a certain point where you just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And kind of having that pulled from you and not being able to train as hard, not being able to be in the same shape. What is that like from an ego perspective? An ego, not in a bad way, but just like, this is who I am, this is who I was, and now all of a sudden I have to be this different person to some extent.
So it's pretty difficult. It's something that like you have to like talk to a therapist about, and I have. I mean, it's one of the hardest things I struggle with because I don't even like training no more because I can't do how I used to do it. It's very difficult. I try and I struggle with it so much, but every day is just about trying to lose weight and trying to eat super healthy and being so badly hurt. And I'm just like, I'm not like, well, why aren't you hurt? Right? Like, why isn't like all these guys that fought in the UFC having these problems? Because there's other guys in the UFC that have worse. There's some guys that like can't remember yesterday.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm very thankful for not being that bad, but like, it's difficult. It's something I struggle with a lot. I wish I could do the things I used to do. I'm okay with it. My wife, who was my high school girlfriend, she's so amazing, and she doesn't want that guy at all. She just wants the guy she has, the fat, happy, jolly husband who is utterly in love with his wife and his children. Like, that's who I am. I wish I could get back down to a certain weight, but I just, it is what it is, and you see people, which is really hard, right? Like, when I see people who I haven't seen in a while, the first thing they say to me is, Jesus Christ, what did you do to yourself?
Really?
Every time.
Okay.
And I'm just like, and then I'm like, well, let's open up your bank account. Or I'm like, oh, what have you done in your life? So like, it used to get me so mad, and I would say stupid things like that. I know that one time I was just at a beach like 2 years ago, and I was pretty heavy, but I literally didn't have my fake knee yet. And the person said to me, he goes, Jesus Christ, what have you done to yourself? And he was laughing at me. I don't like it. I don't like people making fun of me. I don't like that at all. It like triggers something like where I want to fight you.
Right.
And I was just like real calm, which was really scary for him. And I was just like, hey, say something like that again, I'm going to choke you out unconscious and throw you in the ocean in front of your family. Because I don't think that that's cool at all. And I don't like it. Like, I don't go up to anyone. I don't see anyone as fat or skinny. I don't see anyone as this or that. I look at you as who you are. And I'm always being judged. And I hate it. I really hate it. Like, even like as a joke, like going back to like, to another training facility that I used to train at. And the first thing everyone said was, Jesus Christ, did you eat Kurt? I'm like, no, I didn't eat Kurt, but I've had a lot of injuries and I really don't even eat bad food.
It's
Like
got to be hard, man.
I'm like explaining myself, you know, and
It's hard enough being like someone in your 40s, 50s, or older. As a man, especially. I think men don't get enough attention or credit. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know where I'm going with this. I don't think men get enough understanding or empathy. Aging is not easy for anyone, and like someone like yourself, where athletics and fitness is such a big part of your life, that's not easy as it is. But then being someone that's under the spotlight, it's like you can't escape it.
yeah,
right.
The best thing I've ever did was get out of the spotlight.
Yeah,
To be out, like it was good and it was fun and I had a good time and I have all these great memories. But the memories I'm making now are so much better than the memories I had, and I just wish that when you think like you think you have friends and people that love you, but if the friends that love you and care about you and friends that you see call you fat or like say something to you that's in a negative manner, how you deal, like you could never say that around my wife. If my wife heard that, she'll attack you for sure. Like she don't like that at all. And if someone ever told me that, oh, I'm so fat, the first thing I say to them, like, no, you're not. Like, you're a beautiful person. There is no such thing. Like, are you happy? No? All right, well, then try to do something about it. But, like, don't sit here and shame yourself. Like, you are you, right? You're going to be you. That's who you are. Love yourself and own it or do something about it. I walk every day with a fully replaced knee and a broken hip every day, 3 miles every day, except for today because I'm doing the podcast. I just wish people could understand that struggle. And all I eat is really protein. I eat like 2 or 3 meals a day. They're not bad, but like, why can't I have Chinese food one night? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying, but when you can't, I would work out twice a day to where like I might work out like jujitsu training, maybe once or twice a week. You ever see those WWE wrestlers?
Yeah, of course.
They're all like beat up, off of steroids, and they're like shriveled, they're real skinny, and like look like they're broken.
Except for The Rock, he's escaped it somehow.
I don't know. He's on drinks a lot of water.
Yeah. Yes, that's the gear he's on, is water.
He drinks a lot of water. And you see those guys, and my biggest fear happened to me. I'm living my biggest fear.
Really?
I go to like a gym, and my biggest fear was I don't want anyone to look at me and go, oh God, there's Kurt Pellegrino. That guy fought in the UFC. Look at him. Look how fat he is. Or look at him lifting. Like he only can lift 20-pound weights. Like that guy was like the king, right? Like that's how I knew him, right? That's me. Like I walk on a treadmill. I don't run. I can't do an elliptical because it's too much on my hip. I can't walk up the stairs because like I walk down your stairs. Where do you see me walk up them?
Sure.
And my shoulders are replaced. So like 15 to 20 pounds doing curls is a lot. On a bench, and I have the bar's 45 pounds. You put 225s on. Like I got to tell you, it's a lot. Like I'm so weak because my shoulders is metal. So like,
lucky though, you're like genetically, you got muscle mass just from breathing, just from being in your blood. Everyone has got a different journey. Like I work out like crazy. It takes me like so long to gain a pound of muscle. I work out, I eat enough protein, all of the right stuff. And I can't gain weight. And you're like the opposite. Everyone's got a different thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I built a pretty good foundation. So like some of my friends, my one friend, he's great. He says, you're fat, Jack. You look jacked, but you're fat. And I laugh at it because the only thing that's really, I just have a belly. I can't do nothing. I can't like I tried doing like rubber bands and I'm so sore. My shoulder and arm is so sore from it. I'm like, none of it's fun to do. Like I didn't mind being sore, but when your injury's sore, it's not fun. Like how is any of this fun to do?
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun at all.
So, and I don't want to go to a gym and people be like, there he is. That's Kurt Pellegrino. I'm giving myself credit, obviously, but it's in the back of my head, and I don't want that to happen. So I try to stay out of gyms as well.
It's like maybe that's the new dyslexia that you're running from. Maybe that's the new.
Yeah, probably, right? Yeah, maybe. I do run from it. And my wife's like, who gives a shit what they think? I go, well, you get it, right? What one person comes up to me and I'm not feeling good about myself
Sure.
because I'm so weak and they call me fat. I go, I mean, there's not gonna be a problem. I'm just gonna be like, oh, thanks for calling me fat. I really appreciate it. Something I'm struggling with. It's all my injuries, but I really appreciate you calling me fat. How's your life?
Right. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, people that do that have a shitty, experience in their own mind.
Yeah.
We all know that, but some days you can't be quite as empathetic, and you just want to kill people.
It's just wild. It's like, imagine like like I came over here and your wife like had a bad haircut and like and they burnt the side of her face. I'm like, "Ew, what the fuck happened to your face?" She's like, "Excuse me? Looks like shit." Like, could you imagine? Like, I just, or like, "Oh, I haven't seen you, Jay. Boy, you put a couple pounds on."
Mhm.
Like, you're just like, who says that?
It's a good reminder, especially with kids that not everyone can take it. Like if you're with your college buddies, your high school buddies, you can rag on each other
Oh, dude.
because there's a foundation of love there.
Yeah.
And it's like with people that don't necessarily know that, or if there's like an older person and a kid, they don't realize how that goes.
Right.
Um,
But you're like, I'm talking like it happens when you don't expect it.
right.
And when you're eating dinner, you go to a bar, and this
Yeah.
isn't in my friend circle, but I know them pretty well. And then they come up and call me fat. I'm like, yo, man, who are you?
You know what I try to do, and it does not always work. So I'm just going to say that right now. This does not always work as a strategy. But when people do stuff like that to me, whether it's personally, whether it's physically, whether it's my career, whatever it might be, people talk shit. And if it catches me at an off time, I try as quickly as possible to just be like, you know what? They must be really unhappy. They must be really miserable. I try to find some gratitude in it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save that in my head as like you did with
Yeah.
fuel. But it might take me a day or an hour or a week before I can get to that more mature place.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely a time I didn't have the ability to fight back like you did, but I am kind of quick to jump to that, even though I don't have the arsenal that you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents are from Brooklyn, so I kind of have that quick, short-tempered
Sure.
thing within me, even though I shouldn't. So much of your opposition has been people not understanding you, people not getting you. And I'm wondering, what is it about other people or society or fill in the blank that you don't get most? Like when you see other people, persons, whatever the blank is for you, what's the thing that you're like, I just don't get it, or I just don't get you? What's that thing for you?
But me?
Like you were saying, other people just don't get the dyslexia. They just don't get your injuries. They just don't get your ability to lose weight like you want to. Are there other things that maybe, whether you outwardly say something or not, where you're just like, I don't freaking get you, or you're blank, you know what I mean? Where your judgment kind of comes in, whether you want it to be or not, you know what I mean?
I just think people see me as like their friend. Like everyone thinks of me as like their best friend. So when they come up to me, they think they could just kind of say whatever they want to say, and I'm just gonna like laugh it off and go. And what I've been doing, like if I haven't seen someone, they insult me like that. I do I call it the Nate Diaz effect. People contact me all the time, and they're like, and they do like a video on like Instagram or whatever or Twitter, and they're like, "Ah, Kurt, you fucking suck." And I'm like, I know, man. He was the man. It was such a tight triangle. Nate's the man. Like that, and then they don't write back because I didn't give them any fire.
Right.
So when someone says something to me like, now, if you're like, yo, bro, you packed on a couple, huh? After having all those kids, I'd be like, hey, yeah, I did. But man, you look great, man. What have you been doing? You're like, look totally fit and totally good shape.
Right,
and if they're not,
it's like when people flick you off and you're like, hey, how you doing? Like,
yeah, I'm like,
I
thanks.
don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm wondering the opposite though. Are there things with other people or even society as a whole? Are there things that you find yourself judging, rightfully or not, where you're like, let's say you see a person do a thing or say something or experiencing their life in a certain path, and you're like, I just don't freaking get you. You know what I mean? Like where someone else might not have gotten you. Are there patterns or things or actions or journeys that you're just like, I don't get you in this. I don't relate to you at all.
I don't relate to anyone that plays basketball.
Okay.
Like I don't get the sport. But like I try, because I was judged so hard. Like there's so many things that I don't agree with, especially how the world is today. But like leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. You do you. If you think, you know, if you're not throwing it in my face, I don't care.
Which sounds like the most non-confrontational thing to say, yet somehow it still is.
Yeah, like legitimately, like there's so many things I don't agree on, but like if you, for instance, if you voted and support 100% President Biden, and I 100% support President Trump, I will still be your friend.
Yeah.
I don't care about your views.
Why should you? Yeah.
But most people get mad. So again, people burning flags in New York City and all that stuff. It's not like it's bothering the whole world and everything's going crazy. But I'm not going to judge anyone for things that they're doing. I'm just gonna kind of look away from it, because what can I do about any of that situation?
Right.
I'm not going to tell you who you can be, or I'm like, hey, I don't like you because you're a painter. I really wish you'd play more guitar than paint. Like, it's like, who am I to tell? Like, I don't judge anyone on anything. I don't care if your kid wants to identify as a cat or a dog, or it's a girl and it wants to be a boy. Like, hey, listen, it's your, it's your life. You know what I mean? If you're like, hey, I'm gay, cool. I have 1,000 gay friends. Like, I don't really care about any of that stuff.
Sure.
It doesn't. None of that stuff has ever affected me, even when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I wrestled. I showered with all races. I never. I mean, I had fun in the shower. I like threw soap at people. Like, I never cared. It was just, I still try to keep that mentality on how I am. I'm not really like judgy. Like, I have people that only want to talk about politics, and I'm like, I don't, like, I'll do it with you. I don't care. And then when you have a different vision of mine, you get all pissed off, and I still don't care. It's like a real lazy, like, my life is very simple. I wake up in the morning, my wife goes to school, I take my kids, I get them off to school. I'm thinking about the next thing for Kurt. I'm wondering where Priscilla's lacrosse game is. And then I go to the gym, and then I come home, I rest, I fall asleep, and I repeat it over and over and over and over again. That's what I do.
Let's get into grappling as a last topic. I want to understand the mindset that it takes, because I would imagine that a lot of it is mental and the mindset of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk me through what people like yourself, or maybe your heroes growing up, wrestlers, jiu-jitsu guys or girls, what makes you and them different as far as the strategy portion of it goes? What, as much as you can articulate to someone that doesn't know how to think on that level in that particular activity, what is that like? What's the mental talk inside your head?
So I was pretty gifted when I was a kid. I mean, again, I really wasn't smart. So I could look at a move as a guy does the move to show the move one time, and like close my eyes and turn around and do that move, no problem.
Is it a feeling? Is it a strategy? Is it a left brain thing or right brain thing? Like, is it logical? Is it more creative for you? Is it a blank canvas and you're like, here, I see how it can happen?
My mentality was like, I just never thought anyone could beat me. And I was very good at picking up moves, and I liked the scramble. And the more you scramble with me, I'm like, okay, I'm tired, so he has to be tired too. So I'm going to keep going until I break them, because I'm not going to break unless you game a position where I can't get out of. Then you won. And I never liked getting beat in anything.
Yeah.
Like, I hated it. Like, I'd beat Kurt in everything until I can't. And that's kind of how it was with training. Like, I wanted to be the best, so I made sure I put myself in there. And I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best, but I beat so many of the best people in my era. I did. And my mentality of like doing something was, I just did it 1,000 times. If I just did it 1,000 times. So
how much of it is like seeing 10 moves ahead versus just being in the moment?
A lot of mine was the moment, but I was always like, even now, if I go to sweep you and you stop it, I already know what move I'm doing. So whatever move I'm going for first, I almost want you to stop it. And 9 times out of 10, I'm doing it so you can stop it because I'm really going the opposite way. I'm going to push you right, but I'm going to really finish you on the left side.
And are the better opponents people that obviously see that
Yes.
5 step and they get 8 steps ahead?
Yeah.
Like I guess there gets to be a limit where you're like, I can only think so far ahead.
Yeah, there's a sequence. So the guy, like butterfly, I'm sweeping you here, but I want you to post with your hand on purpose because I don't want that sweep. What I want is to get underneath you, go to an X guard kind of situation from butterfly. So I'm going to make you stop this move, which is a mistake that you're making that I knew you were going to make because I want you to make it. And then I'm going into something different. The same thing, like I did when I was coming here, one of my students texted me about the move I did at Fight to Win and how I got that choke. Man, I did that choke 1,000 times. I knew he was going to stop it the first time. I wanted him to stop it the first time. And when he did, I was like, perfect, because now he thinks he's going to stop it, and then I still hit him with it again.
Okay.
Just, it's just weird. It's like playing chess. The greatest chess players know by moving this piece, they're gonna move that piece.
Is that the fun of it? Is that the fun part?
Yeah. I love it. Like that's what I can't do anymore.
I think that when I was doing jiu-jitsu in a disciplined way years ago, that's the part that I loved. It was very connected for me, the same as like art or playing an instrument. The idea of like becoming fluent in something, like in a language, the way of communicating, like the way of learning it, drilling it, whatever it might be, whether it's painting, playing guitar, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. Like the idea of drilling it to the point where you don't think about it anymore and it just kind of happens, then sort of like watching it happen through you, that whole process really intrigues me.
Yeah, that's how it was. I could just wrestle or do jiu-jitsu and just move after move, solve a puzzle as it was happening. Like I loved when people could really, back then when I was really good at no-gi and was ranked #1 in the country, there really wasn't anyone that could really do anything to me in my gym. So I would put myself in really, really bad situations and find myself getting out of them.
With jiu-jitsu specifically, how much of it is physical? So for instance, you have someone with the exact same skills and they're 75 pounds heavier than you and they have 10 inches in height more. How much does that matter?
I think it matters a lot.
It does.
So if I'm at this, like me and Marcelo Garcia, we're the same size for years. But like you couldn't blink. If you blinked wrong, you're beyond you're like, I mean, it was a massacre. He was so good. And he told me like the key to his success, which I thought was so funny. He's like, listen, Kurt, if you want to do good against me, you can't stop moving. And I was like, can't stop moving. What do I, all right. So, and he put on the clock for 7 minutes and you got to defend this man for 7 minutes. And that didn't work. I'm like, I wasn't stopping. He's like, no, you were defending. I said, don't stop moving, which meant attack. So for like, I think I did good for like 4 minutes and I was like he was sweeping. I was going back underneath and it was like a tornado of people just like, and then I just couldn't keep up that pace. And then he submitted me. I think I was like 4 minutes left. I think he tapped me like 8 times. Wow. Cause I literally like, you would stop for a second, boom, submit you, like, damn it. But when you were moving, as he went in to sweep you and you would stand up and try to cut through and then he would come over here and then you jump on top of it. That's what kept it going. The moment you tried to stop him from getting to his knees or tried to stop you from a sweep is when you got swept and submitted. So he gave me the keys to the house.
Right.
And I still couldn't do anything. Nothing.
But size wasn't really a variable in that situation.
No. But the strength that he had compared to me was like he could have been 80 pounds heavier than me. Because that's what he felt like. And I rolled with guys that were bigger than him. I really never had, I mean, I won all the absolute divisions. I don't think I've ever lost an absolute division.
Is there like almost like a ratio? Like if someone's like 6'4" and 225 pounds and they're freaking jacked, like do they have, if they're a purple belt, do they do well with you? If they're a brown belt, or they have to be your They have to be a black belt in order to hold their own against you. Or how much does size like?
So it matters, right? It does matter. So
Sure.
I went against this guy who was a tight end, and thank God he was in my gym. And this is when I was, I I'm almost definitely positive I think I was in the UFC, but I still ranked either top 3, if not number 1 in grappling at the time, I believe. And this dude was a tight end for the Jets.
Yeah.
6'4", like bicep length was like this long.
Jesus,
I mean, just like giant abs. I'm like, Jesus. And I couldn't wait to just like manhandle him. And I was like 178 pounds.
Yeah.
And he was over 200. I mean, probably benched 400 pounds. He beat my ass. He was a blue belt.
Blue belt, yeah.
I'm talking, or a purple belt.
Just because physically you could only do so much, right?
I couldn't he just, but he was good on top of that too. He was a
good purple belt.
He was a purple belt that was very athletic, so it made him even better.
Right.
He was good. Now in a competition, I'll beat him because then it's worth something to me. But in practice, I just would like to roll and play.
Right.
And it was over. And honestly, I think he beat me like 50-3. I think I passed his guard once. And then that's when he kicked my ass. After it was over, he's like, thanks, coach. And he was just in for the day. Yeah. He's like, my students brought him in. He's like, I really appreciate rolling. It was an honor. Sorry I suck so bad. I'm like, you just destroyed me. And I tried so hard to beat you. I wanted to go again. But he was so beat up in that match just from the pace I was taking and just constantly avoiding everything. I was like, you were attacking me the whole time. I don't know how you. He said, yeah, I was trying to submit you. I don't want to be disrespectful. I go, no, I want that. I don't want you to like baby it, but he couldn't, thank God. But he's like, my size, I should have been able to have my way with you. And you're the first person to ever do this, to do what you did to me. I go, I only scored 3 points. Yeah. You beat my ass for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it was a beating. Like I took a beating. And he's like, well, I think you're great. I'm like, shit. I'm like, don't stop training because you're going to be really good.
Yeah.
Like, he beat me. There was nothing I could do to this guy.
Sure. Yeah.
He was a monster.
Yeah.
And if he stood up and tried beating me up, it would have been even worse for me. So in that concept, yeah, like there's some things I did a private lesson with a brown belt once with this one sweep that I'm really good at in butterfly.
Yeah.
And I took everything in my power to sweep him because he was a lot heavier, like, maybe 250. And I was in the 70s, 170 still. And I gave a private in it. Like, and he couldn't sweep me because I was way better than him.
Yeah.
But I only swept him once with the move that he paid me $500 for.
Yeah.
He paid $500 for this certain move. We did it for 2 hours. He knew how to do it. I let him sweep me a bunch of times. But when it came down to it, he's like, just go 100% because I want to see if I could do it. And he couldn't. I'm like, it's my move. I know 100 ways out of this.
Yeah.
And then I tried doing him, and I was only able to get him once.
Yeah.
But like in a match, I would just take him down, pass his guard, and probably maybe submit him. Because he wasn't like this guy. This other guy, the Jets guy, or the Colts guy, literally when I pass his guard, he's like, no.
Denied.
I'm like, Jesus. And I was like, I can't move my eyes.
Jesus.
So there is levels. You have to still be good.
Sure.
To be able to beat someone on our level, right?
Sure.
He wasn't on the level, but he was such a good athlete on top of knowing jiu-jitsu.
There was
nothing. There was.
Mechanics have to be there to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, like he wasn't a flexible hip block, like that, but this dude was tough.
Right. Not like the days like the first UFC with like Royce Gracie taking out sumo wrestlers. Like it's like,
like those guys will kill.
That was a cool era when it was like no one knew jiu-jitsu, and it was like kung fu versus this, and this thing versus that. It was like
It's like when all the Olympian wrestlers came in.
Yeah,
they're like, all right, you guys might know jiu-jitsu.
Ken Shamrock came in, like those days.
That was pretty neat. That's when it was really neat. Like I was kind of intrigued more then.
Right
now, it's like all these fights are boxing.
Yeah,
like I liked when Khabib fought. because he's going to take you down,
Right.
stop him.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. This is cool, man. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, this
You
is
got
great.
me pumped. I want to get back on your mats soon.
Let's go.
Yeah, I got to find time in the schedule.
Yeah, it's always the schedule.
Lame excuse, but it's true.
No, I get it. Listen, if anyone gets it,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, your busy fishing schedule.
Yeah, and I do know how to play an instrument,
Do you? What do you play?
a ukulele.
I have some upstairs.
Yeah, I can play ukulele.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to jam out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Thanks, brother.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Cool, man.